The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production.
Kev, I'm not sure whether you had a chance to listen, but our programme, You and Me and You, wasn't that a TV programme once? You and me and you. Lots and lots for us to do. No, you to do, us to do?
You to do, me to do. I don't know, whatever.
Anyway,
You and Me it was called.
The programme we recorded, what we did, went out, would it be a couple of weeks ago? I don't know. Where are we, Kev, in the world? But that one, and people said we sounded like we bonded. You know the one I did on the photo walk where you've probably forgotten now. You slept since then. But
no, I probably haven't actually.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I recall the photo walk podcast.
Yeah,
yes.
I've thought for one moment we were going to sort of be stapled into the coffee shop because your leg, and I can't tell you the amount of people that have said, "Is Kev's leg okay?"
It's a lot better now, thank you.
Yeah, could you put people at rest? Is your knee okay?
Yes, it's a lot better. I am back on the judo mat, although I'm not training very hard.
Kev, you shouldn't be doing that.
If I didn't do that, there'd be no point in doing much else.
The FujiCast.
Welcome to the FujiCast. Kev with his good knee, and I've got a slight tan, Kev. Although it's fading from my time in the Gambia. It's off already. But welcome to...
You told me the weather was awful.
Well, no, it wasn't awful. It was okay. There was a sort of... In the city, there was a light smog, you see, Kev, there was a scrim. It was like God's scrim, which gave us great light, having said that. But anyway, back from Africa, back from his knee recuperation. It's me and Kev on the FujiCast. You and your questions that you sent in to click at fujicast.co.uk and also through the Facebook page. How do we do that, Kev?
Top of the Facebook group, FujiCast Facebook group, is a pinned thread called Questions for the Show 2024.
I think we've been doing okay as well.
We got quite a few questions there, and there's been a whole load of email questions come in, I've seen.
I've slid them across. I did a couple of weeks ago. Do you remember? I don't know whether it was on the programme. Sometimes I forget, Kev, our conversations, whether they're on various podcasts or it's something we've had privately. But I do remember you saying to me that you've managed to absolutely clear your inbox.
I had.
Yeah.
Had being the operative word.
Oh, well, in a hashtag Be Like Kev way, I made it my mission this week. There are 4 that I can't clear because they're sort of long-term projects. But I think I'm down to 3, actually. And I'm almost there, Kev.
Good.
Yeah. It feels
good. It's very cathartic.
Oh, it feels really good.
Yeah, it does feel really good. Do you know what my advice for those 4 remaining emails are?
Go on, then.
Put them somewhere else. But if you absolutely have to be able to eyeball them,
well, I can't.
I have a little bit of text on my desktop wallpaper.
Right.
That are my kind of ongoing primary concerns.
Right.
Then I slide those emails away into their relevant folder. But I can always see when I turn on my computer, when I look at my desktop wallpaper, it says, this must be done.
Oh, how does that work? Is that a particular app or is it just, I don't know, Word?
No, I don't know how you would do it on a Mac.
Well, it's a good idea.
I don't even know how to turn a Mac on, let alone explaining something like that to you.
Stop it, Kev. Well, have you done it on a Windows machine?
There's software you can use. On Windows, there's one called BG Info, but you can also you can just add the text to your desktop wallpaper, which a lot of people would do. Very simple. I use BG Info. For those of you that are Windows users and fancy this idea, I use BG Info.
Right.
Because you can add all kinds of text and you can add parameters like how much memory you've got left and all that kind of stuff. And then it will appear on your laptop, your main computer, all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter what wallpaper you have. But most people would just add the text to their wallpaper.
What do you mean how much memory you've got left?
You know, like hard disk space and all kinds of various parameters. Right. I don't bother with any of that. I just have my little power message and what I've got to do next. Right.
Let's start with questions. Who's going to go first? I'm hoping you're going to say you because I'm still finding the folder.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Go on.
Well, in time-honored tradition, I'll start with the most recent one in the Facebook group, which is David Jennings. And he says, on the 40-megapixel sensors, when using a smaller image size in camera, aside from file size, is there any benefits to noise or low-light performance? Does this take longer to process in camera and limit, and in brackets, or maybe improve, your burst and buffer speeds? My uneducated answer to that is burst speed I think is quick. So for example, on the XT5 XH2s and all of those, and XT4s and all of that kind of stuff, there's like you have a sports mode, sports finder mode, which is the images are cropped, but you can then use the electronic shutter at a much faster speed, so the buffer is filling up quicker. So that's I think image quality, no, I don't think there's any change to image quality, performance, noise, any of that kind of stuff, just smaller. So obviously you wouldn't be able to crop in quite as tight and see the same image quality.
Are we talking about when you get that enormous shutter speed of one, I would get this wrong, Kev. Wait for me to struggle with this one. This is my version of your reception. 1/1/800th of it. I've got it. 1/1/800th of a second.
No, I wouldn't say so. It's the frames per second that it affects.
Oh, I thought you meant that the shutter speed as well adds a further complication.
So the frames per second. I don't have the figures in front of me, but the sports finder mode, you can shoot at much faster burst rate, frames per second, but it crops. So your mileage may vary.
Did we answer all the questions there? Did we? Yeah.
Yeah, there was only one. Really.
Andre Liddell. Hi, Neil. Hi, Kev. Another email from Bergen in Norway. Didn't you do a wedding in Bergen or near to Bergen?
No, I've never. I think I might have flown into Bergen.
I think you did.
No,
yeah.
That was Trondheim. I flew into Trondheim.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, that's probably the reason why I'm sort of linking things together here. I know a guy called Trond in Norway, and he lives in Bergen. So that's why I'm joining the two together with some questions to make the email inbox not so empty, says Andre. This time, you don't have to answer them twice, as you did with my football photography questions in episodes 248 and 256. Who was counting? Kev almost gave the same answers to my question in each of the shows. That's because, Andra, we just play back a tape.
I remember that. I remember thinking, I'm sure we've had this question before.
I know, but it's the same thing, Kev, isn't it? That you think, have I had this conversation with somebody, or did we do it on the show? I've got a friend of mine that watches films just to spot mistakes. It's his hobby.
Yeah,
he should probably get out more. But
there's a whole Facebook community about that, isn't there?
Yeah, I know. It's what does he call it? Continuity
errors.
Continuity errors. And he watches things like, I think he picked some stuff out of Skyfall, where in one scene somebody's got a red coloured tie on, and then you change camera and they've got a blue coloured tie on, or something like that. Kev almost gave the same answers to my questions in each of the shows. Entertaining, at least for me, but very helpful answers, nevertheless. I bought myself the 70-140, as Kev recommended both times. I am loving it. Questions. Yes. There are 3. Let's get them done. Then I'll delete this email and we won't be in danger of doing it twice. In addition to the XT4, I also own an X Pro 2, which developed a buggy mechanical shutter. It locks up somehow and I get an error message to turn the camera off and back on. It started with long exposures, but now it locks up every time. Every time? Electronic shutter works fine. Should I spend money on a new shutter? How much with a question mark? Or should I just use the electronic shutter and be happy? I'm not taking that many pictures of rotating propellers anyway.
I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, the cost of repairing an X Pro 2, if Fujifilm even would do that still, you could probably get a second-hand X Pro 3 for that.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're not shooting that many with it and the electronic shutter is fine, the only thing with the electronic shutter of that generation of Fujifilm cameras was that you would often see, the what they call it, the rolling shutter effect, the banding kind of thing, which is what he's referring to with the idea of the helicopter blades.
Yeah.
So if it's pretty much static stuff, then your electronic shutter will be fine with the X Pro 2. So I just stick with it.
Or go to MPB.
Yeah, or get a second-hand X Pro 3.
They'll sort you out. Question 2. He's put or here. Or my big 50 birthday is coming up later this spring. Maybe I should wish for money to buy myself a new camera. If you could confirm for me that there will be an X Pro 4 coming up, that would make it a much easier decision. I don't think we can confirm that one, can we, Kev?
I honestly, genuinely have no Scooby-Doo.
No.
I would love an X Pro 4 to be on the horizon, but I literally no idea. Myself, personally, I don't know, you might have an idea, Neil. I don't know.
Well,
you've got about as much chance of knowing as I have.
Well, I know of one project, but it's not an X Pro 4. You're going to Japan next week, so couldn't you just could you tap up a few of the R&D guys and say, chance of an X Pro 4, really would like one.
I'll say, I won't tell anybody, but can you let me know if an X Pro 4 is ever going to turn up? They'll look at me with dewy eyes and not tell me the answer.
Yeah, or they'll just say, we
shall consider.
We shall consider. Yeah.
No, I honestly, I literally have no idea. Often you see, there's rumor sites and like Fuji rumors and all that kind of stuff. And, he seems to have the inside knowledge from pretty much everywhere. And as far as I can tell, there's nothing on there about X Pro 4s or anything. So
no, I've not seen anything.
No, who knows?
Who knows? Question 3. With my XT4, I also got the 16-80 f4 lens that I have a love-hate relationship with. Not quite happy with the pictures it produces, but the zoom range is ideal for much of my photography. After purchasing the 70-140, well, it's a bit of a different size, I was surprised. I was surprised how much sharper this lens is compared to the 16-80. Have I got a bad 16-80, or is there a big difference between these two lenses? And if I'm to approach the dealer about the 16-80 not being so sharp, what do I say? Well, number one, 70-140 I think is a sterling lens, and it is sharp. You've used it a lot, haven't you, Kev? I don't have one anymore, but when I married it actually with the X Pro 2 for a while, and it was a marriage. It wasn't a best place marriage because the balance of an X Pro 2 just felt a bit wrong. It always feels to me like an XT lens, not an X Pro lens, really. But the 16-80 I've not used. Have you got? Is it in your cupboard of doom?
No. What was the other one? The 70-140.
Oh no, it should be the 50-140. Surely. Were we saying 70-140 all the way through? Surely he means 50-140, doesn't he?
I think he probably means the 50-140. Yeah. So
rewind that all the way. Every time you heard me say 70, I meant 50.
Yeah. So I don't have the 16-80. I do have the 16-55. Is it? Yeah. 16-55.
That's the one I've got on the camera here. That one is that one that's the f2.8 one, isn't it? Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. The 16-80 is f4. It's not it's not one of the, what they call it, the C lenses. Oh God, it's too early. Should we tell people that it's like 4:00 in the morning?
Yeah, we're doing this early because Kev's got so many appointments today.
Anyway, it's one of the premium lenses. However, It is an f4 lens. And an f4 lens.
You mean an XF lens? Are you talking about XF?
It is an XF rather than XC. Yes,
yeah. That's what you mean, isn't it?
It's an F4 range over 16-80. I don't think will stand up to like a 2.8 16-55, for example. No. But certainly not in terms of the 50-140 2.8, because that longer zoom, if you like, or the drop off, don't
mention the drop off.
The drop off is going to appear sharper anyway, just because of that depth of field difference.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a cheaper lens, the 16-80. The 16-55 is more expensive because it's 2.8, obviously. I mean, 16-80 is not a range that I would kind of have bought. I'm 16-55, but it's like half the price. So essentially, I haven't got a clue about the answer. No idea. Sorry.
But you waffled very well around it.
I did.
I reckon Andre put in 70-140 to catch us out on purpose.
Yeah.
And you managed. Well done. He says, P.S. when you do a European tour, make sure you come to Bergen. Well, there we go. That's the official invite, Kev.
Yeah.
The European tour in Bergen. I love Norway.
On the Winter Olympics there once, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, Lillehammer. You're supposed to say it with a slight dance in your voice, aren't you? I've been to I did a wedding there, actually, in Lillehammer. I think it's one you couldn't do, actually, Kev. I think I went to Norway instead of you, I think.
Yes, very likely. I've done 2 in Norway. I enjoy Norway.
Yeah, I love Norway. And it's... I went to Lillehammer and I went up the where they have the ski jump. I went right up to the top. I mean, it was grassed over. I mean, there was no snow the time of year I went, So it was a bit surreal looking down this ramp. But I tell you what, you've got to have kahunas of steel to throw yourself off the top of one of those. I looked down. That was where the Winter Olympics were, and I thought, God, dear. All those people that take the rise out of Eddie the Eagle Edwards, I had a whole new respect for Eddie after looking down that ramp. Even the practice one or the slightly shorter one, that looked frightening enough.
I love that film about him.
Yeah.
I think it was called Eddie, or maybe it was just called The Eagle. I don't know. Anyway, it's a film about him.
It was very good. Right, Facebook. I'm going to delete that. I'm not sure the sound effect will come across on the
You said there was 3 questions.
That was. One was about the XT4.
Oh, right, yeah.
2 was about his birthday. 3 was about the 16 to 80. So can I...
Fair enough. Right, well,
can I press delete? Here we go.
Before I do my next question, I'm just going to say thank you to our most recent patrons. We have Rob Brand, Richard Kunz, Tim Yates, Thomas Moore, Gurmeet Singh Angel. So thank you very much for supporting us on Patreon. And those who are on Patreon, every other Monday, when there's not a main show, we'll get a patron pop-up show, all of their own to listen to with all the other patrons people.
And also, I'd like to mention PickTime. Pick-time.com, who are our amazing sponsors. Of late, I've been sending out, because it's that time of year, Kev, I've been sending out a lot of gallery URLs to people to show weddings that I've done at particular venues. And it's always great to have, it's practically like a website you're sharing with them because of the way that PickTime allow you to show your wares, show your pictures. That it feels really good to be able to send out a gallery to somebody and say, well, here's a wedding I shot, a year ago or 2 years ago at this particular venue you're getting married at. PickTime is just a great way to display your pictures after you've shot a job, but it's not only used for wedding and portrait photographers or by wedding and portrait photographers. It's used by many other kinds of photographers, wildlife, landscape photographers to show their pictures and where they've been, isn't it?
Yeah, there's all kinds of things. The one thing that I want to point out about PickTime over the last month is that they have sent out an amazing update to their app. And it's amazing. Not only is it amazing for clients, but it's also amazing for the photographers. So you can just log onto your app. Let's say you want to post something on Instagram, log onto your app, go to the relevant gallery, download the image, boom, into Instagram. Email, create a gallery, all of that stuff. The app has moved into the 21st century. Are we still in the 21st century?
I think we are, Kev. I don't think you and I are going to make the 22nd somehow.
Yeah, maybe. We might do. Yes, so the app, that is something that a lot of people have been waiting for, and they've obviously spent a lot of time developing that. So well done, PickTime, and it is actually very, very, very good app. For example, I have all of my weddings that I've ever shot, all bar couple, from the very first year on my PickTime galleries. So in my little pocket, I have ability to go to every single wedding image and portrait and my commercial stuff as well, picture that I've ever delivered to a client, and just drag it onto my phone and do something with it if I wish.
So you're telling me that you've got every single one of your weddings on there now. I didn't do that. When I went from the other one that I had, well, I can say it, when I went from Zenfolio to PickTime, I didn't take all my weddings across. And there is a way of doing it. You can pay, it's a couple of dollars, isn't it, per wedding or something?
Yeah, so I paid PickTime to actually do that for me. Yeah. So they've got a service. I think it's $1 a gallery or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Where you tell them where your old galleries are located, and they just do the magic and bring them all over to PickTime. So I did that, yeah. I think it's cheaper if you're on the higher plan, but yes, anyway, they will do it for you.
Thank you, pick-time.com. I know I say it like that, but I want it to be easy for you to find. If you go there, make sure you put in the code FUJICAST, all in uppercase, and you'll receive a month free. Right, Kev, Facebook.
Yeah, what about it?
It's your question.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I thought that was another question.
No.
Sorry, I was changing something on my website.
I'm glad you join us every single time for these. I'm just playing chess. I'm watching something on YouTube. I'm doing my website. I'm on the loo.
Well, yes, I do have a couple of moves to play in chess. Anyway, this is from when we first opened up the new questions post on Facebook, which I promised to do on New Year's Eve. And we had a flurry, and I haven't done all of those flurries yet. So this is from Jude LJ, and she says, "Hello, Kevin and Neale. I hope you've both had a lovely Christmas." Mine was fantastic, thanks.
When was that? How many years ago was that?
February's moving on nicely, Jude.
God, yeah.
Which lens do you think would be best to photograph CrossFit? And in brackets, very low light, fast movement.
Right.
I can usually get fairly close to the athlete, but I think the 50mm could be too close and heavy. Is the 23mm 1.4 a fast focusing lens, or maybe the 33? I have an XT2 and an XT3. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Well, I was instantly going to go for 23 because I think that's going to be whippier focus than the 50. You might disagree with that, but then you have experience of the 33 as well, and you might say, "Oh, this is a good option."
I'd go 18, probably.
Would you?
The new
Isn't that
18
just
mil.
a little bit too close?
Well, you can take one step back. Got options, haven't you? Then you can get more than one CrossFitter in. Step back a bit, step closer. You don't have to be that close.
That's true. Yeah,
I would definitely do the 18. I feel like that would tell more of a story in that scenario. I mean, obviously things like the 23 and 33 will have more depth of field ability.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd be all over the 18 if I was doing CrossFit.
You love that 18, don't you?
Although CrossFit is very early in the morning generally, isn't it? And I look enviously at those people.
Do you?
Yeah. I look at them and I think they're fit and I'm cross.
That's the quote of the day, Kev. We'll leave it at that. 2nd of March is coming up. It's only a couple of weeks away now, Kev. And we've got our big do, the big do. Never mind about going to Bergen. Bergen, come to us. We're at the House of Photography in London's Covent Garden. There are still some tickets left. Not
many.
Not many. There are 4 speakers. There's Mr. Whisper, who will be talking. His workshop is about street photography. So Mr. Whisper, who is a Fujifilm ex-photographer, ambassador. And then you've got the latest ex, the one to join. We've got Emily Renier, who is... Oh, no, Emily Renier's speech is... Or her talk, her workshop is not necessarily about wedding photography and portrait photography, although that will be in there, Kev. It's there's a bit more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, she's going to talk about her journey. She's I think she started shooting professionally, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, something like that. She's talking about her journey into weddings, but day in the life stuff as well. Family photography is amazing. And that kind of journey across the way. She used to be a teacher as well, so I think there might be blackboards and pens and that kind of stuff. We might have to sit on little tiny chairs around little small tables.
We should be handing out punishments.
Little quarter bottles of milk.
Oh God! Remember those, Kev? Drinking milk at school. What?
I used to love that. And then
it was horrible.
Came along and said, "Nah,
I know.
Don't let the kids have milk."
I know Mrs. Thatcher got rid of it, but honestly, it was warm, Kev. It was horrible.
Oh, well, weren't where we came from. It was always cold in Newport.
Was it? No, though. I think they stuck it in. So, it was horrible. It was like, it was like yogurt. Anyway, so yeah, Emily will be handing out detentions as she does her workshop. Then there's you, Kev. What are you talking about?
I am going to be talking about business and social media and client acquisition and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. And then I'm doing a talk as well. Mine's wavering, actually, Kev, because, yes, I'm going to do something about sound. Sound, actually, of late, of the last 2... We haven't really had a chance to chat about this, but the last 2 weeks, the photo films that I did that were the mainstay, my USP for so long, I was trying to do a few less of them. But it seems that they're a really important sales thing for my business and still a USP. So I will talk about USPs for when you are doing your wedding meetings or your portrait meetings, because it works for both, and how important it is. But also, when I say wavering, it was because I saw some stuff and had some ideas while I was in the Gambia, which I've sort of been writing up and I want to share. So there's 4 workshops, Kev, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, and a whole lot more, of course. So should there be anything new announced on the... I think the X Summit, the Fujifilm X Summit has been announced for the 20th of February in Tokyo. They generally have something to say. So should there be anything that is announced then, I'm sure that Andreas and his merry crew of wonderful workers at the House of Photographers Exo photography. We'll talk to you about those, and maybe you'll even be able to.
What do they call it?
Try them, order them, whatever. Anyway, whatever comes, maybe there. But Andreas will certainly be giving us a little chat about the inside workings of stuff.
Isn't it called a play and a fiddle or something?
What? Doing what? No, that's the wrong podcast.
Oh no, a touch and try. That's a play and a fiddle. Right. Is it your turn on Facebook or is it my turn? I think it's my turn, isn't it?
Your turn, yep.
Paul Bartlett. Afternoon, gents. Oh, well, depending upon what time of day you're listening to this.
Still dark.
Yeah. Firstly, you're on a different time zone in Malmesbury, aren't you?
Yeah.
Firstly,
go slow zone.
That's it. I liked, by the way, GMT in where I was in Africa. They called it Gambia maybe time. That's how the world works. I like that idea. Firstly,
it sounds very much like southern Spain.
Yes, it does. Firstly, a huge thank you to Kevin for the incredibly kind words he had to say about my latest book, Uplooker. Absolutely, it meant the world to me. Thank you. Secondly, you really should have a postal address for Neale on the site too. I feel bad he never gets books and would love to send a copy his way. It's weird reading a mail about yourself. I feel like sending a second copy to Kev's studio address will result in Neale still having no copies. You're right, Paul, because what he'll do is he'll sell it.
I've never sold a photo book.
My question today is about smoke and weather sealing. I'm looking at some possible opportunities photographing the remarkable work our local fire service do here in Australia. Wow, what a project. Do you know if the weather sealing on Fujifilm cameras and lenses will help protect my gear from smoke damage? It's not something I've given much thought to until now. I appreciate the advice, inspiration, and as always, the laughs from Paul. Shameless plug, he says, there are still some copies of my book available at paulcharlesbartlett.com. Should we put that link on the web page? I think
and we do. If you only have to go back a few episodes to that book review, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, it is an amazing book. Yeah.
On the smoke and weather sealing, I used the X100V a lot while I was away in the Gambia. We went to some markets where there was, I'm still got the smell on my clothes now, where they were smoking fish. And actually, I went into one. Now, this is a sealed unit, so obviously it's going to be okay, isn't it, Kev? But I went into one kitchen. Well, honestly, it was a school kitchen. It had two small serving hatches out to the sand field behind it. And inside this building, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there were four. There were 4 big pots, all with black beans in them that they were serving to the kids for their nutritious lunch. And it was all being done on wood-fired. It was all being done wood-fired. So the smoke in there, Kev, was and the camera absolutely fine. But then that's a sealed unit, isn't it? What happens when you start to take in your, I don't know, what's he got, an XT something with a 56mm, say?
Yeah, I personally, I would probably say it will be all right as long as you're not changing the lenses, with all the smoke wiggling it around you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, smoke can be very corrosive, can't it? If you see the damage on windows from smoke, if there's a fire in a house or something, and the windows often are blackened and charred. So,
but you're not taking it that close to the flames, I would hope.
Well, no, I assume not. But I suppose it's a consideration. I've never thought about it. So, don't know. Don't get too close.
Yeah,
and maybe it'll be all right.
That's our top advice. Don't get too close. But weather sealing is important. Rain, torrential rain. Or if you're working with the fire service, there's going to be some water flying around, isn't there? What about?
It is, but also always remember that weather sealing is not the same as weatherproof.
It's not waterproof, is it?
Yeah, it will do its best, and it will protect you from most things. But if you drop a camera in with a lens on it that are both weather sealed in a bucket of water, eventually drop it in quickly and pull it out. Probably fine. We'll stop the ingress, but leave it in there. Probably will seep in eventually.
Do you remember years ago I made the XT3 film I made? And I think there was something at the time, somebody at Fujifilm may have told me this, that the weather sealing was that good you could drop it in a bucket of water. And I said I'd drop it in a bucket of water, and then I got cold feet at the last minute. I thought, I'm not dropping my brand new XT3 in a bucket of water. I wasn't quite sure whether it really was.
I dropped my X100 at the bottom of the swimming pool.
Oh, you did actually, didn't you?
We've mentioned that a lot, so I won't mention it again. But there you go, I did. It still works.
Which one was it? X100.
X100S, I think.
All right,
it might be in the original one. I don't know. Anyway, one of them.
Right, there we go. Paul, all sorted. And Paul Charles Bartlett, with 2 T's at the end, .com is the place to go if you would like to get that book, Uplooker. Kev, Facebook.
John Almonte, nice name, says, when do you think internal GPS will make it to Fujifilm cameras?
Don't know. We shall consider.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, there's obviously elements of that in terms of you can connect it to the app, and if you're connected to your app, it will, you can get your GPS information on the images.
Yeah, it's a pain connecting to an app, isn't it? I was having this conversation with a photojournalist who'd gone from maybe Canon 5D4 to I think to the R5, I think, and he was saying one thing they took away was GPS, which for him as a photojournalist travelling the world was a really important thing to have in camera. He said, I can't be bothered to use an app and then to download the app information, and it's just not as user-friendly, is it?
I would guess the reason that Canon did that is probably for battery life. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would say that they can then, proclaim a longer battery life on the newer camera, because obviously having internal GPS having it switched on will affect the battery life. And that probably makes sense because the amount of people who would need internal GPS is probably reasonably small. Of course, you can get a GPS attached memory card. The app, the Fujifilm app these days is amazing. You can just switch it on and it will automatically pair, and it just works. Never used to work as well, but it just works these days. So you can do it that way. Whether you will ever see one internally, I don't know. I just like with the Canon story there, I guess that there's probably too few people, as much as a good technology, a good, what's the word, Neil?
Application?
Yeah, that'll do. As much as it's a good application, I don't know if there would be enough people for them to kind of affect battery life for everybody.
I suppose it's really, I know it'd be really good for landscape photographers to know exactly where you made an image if you want to go back and do a similar thing during a different part of the year where you've got different weather. That would be quite a useful tool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I suppose, but, you can just write it down, can't you? Would a landscape photographer prefer to have a battery that can last another half a day?
Yeah, true.
Or know the coordinates of where they were sat.
Very good point, Kev.
Yeah. Let's face it, most landscape photographers just sit on their butt all day, don't they, and wait.
Kev, careful.
And then just press the button when the time's right.
Is that your summarization of what a landscape photographer does?
And I tell you what, it sounds a wonderful way of being a photographer.
It does.
Brilliant.
I like the way that the world slows down when you watch a really good landscape photographer. Put the tripod down, make sure you got the head exactly. You got to get the spirit level out. Use the spirit that's on the tripod. Sit down, have your sandwiches, then put the camera on. Sit down, have another sandwich. It does sound a wonderful way, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyway, Andreas Noah has written to us. My dear Kev, that's nice, and dear Neale, unfortunately, oh dear, I don't like a letter that starts like this. I can't attend your event in London on March the 2nd. Reason is that I'll be visiting London in late April already, and coming over from Germany would not fit into my travel budget or to my wife's liking. What do you think's the one that's leading the reason here? During my visit to London, I would like to spend some time looking for photography books. Is there a special place you would recommend for looking at a larger selection of books in your capital? Of course, any other hint for visiting London and having a few days by myself for photography would be great on top of the ones you provided already in past Fujicast shows. I've noted down a lot of things. I hope you'll do a London event in 2025 again. I'd definitely be there. I don't know, Andres. This is like a one-off offer. One-off offer? In terms of books, I know you're going to come up with an idea, Kev, but in terms of places to visit, I know it's obvious, but if you don't come to London very often, the Photographer's Gallery is a place you must go to. There's always something to see in there. And also go to the Portrait Gallery, because there's photography in there as well. Yeah,
and the Photographer's Gallery is probably your best bet for photography books as well. They've got a huge selection there.
Yeah.
and you'll find pretty much everything you need in there. If you want a more kind of wandering aroundy type way, just head to Charing Cross Road.
Oh yeah.
The south end of Charing Cross Road. There's a whole load of old bookstores there, and then across kind of Soho, Chinatown. That link road between there's loads of old bookshops, secondhand bookshops. You might find some good stuff in there. I love kind of pottering around there, and foils on it's still there, I think, on Charing Cross Road, the bookstore. They have a huge photography department section as well. Foils.
When you go to the portrait gallery, that's at the bottom of Charing Cross anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's on the corner of Charing Cross Road and Trafalgar Square, isn't it?
I'm just trying to look up what's on at the. I'm stuck in I've got to accept all cookies, right? Of the Tate Modern, because that's always a great place to go. I know that's mainly about art, but you do find some photography stuff in there. And if you go to the Imperial War Museum, we've given you a long list of stuff to do now. There's a lot of photography in there that's worth seeing. Giles, my friend Giles, has got 5 pictures in there on constant display now. Yeah, I was when we went there before. During the Christmas holidays, we were doing some research for the boys' projects at school, and we were there ages. And I said, no, nobody's going home till we've seen Giles's pictures. So I got this going, oh, can't we do it another time, Dad? I said, no, we're all. And it took about 20 minutes, so it wasn't long. But I found all of Giles's pictures. Yeah, can we go home? I want a burger. Right, I think this will be the last question, Kev. Go for it.
Right, last question. Okay, Owen Lister says, am I the only person who can't seem to fix their shutter speed to the set limits in aperture priority on my XH2S? Seems pointless setting a limit if it goes out, even if it is to achieve exposure. My old XT4 didn't seem to have this issue. Any advice or help? Be ace. Thanks for a great show. Yada, 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 yada.
I've got the XH2S, and I can't say I've noticed that as a problem.
No. So I suspect Owen is referring to setting these parameters in auto ISO, where you can say to the camera, don't go outside of it, or set the minimum maximum shutter.
That's exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. So it's always been the same. Would it been exactly the same on the XT4 as well, Owen? It's essentially a recommended minimum shutter speed. It's not a definitive minimum shutter speed.
But it keeps pretty well to it. It keeps pretty well to it, though, Kev, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can do. It will do. I mean, it will do if it's within the parameters, but it will never go outside of the ISO range, so it will never bust that. But if it physically can't get an exposure, remember, if you're using one of the auto modes, and aperture priority is an auto mode, you're basically handing over the shutter and the ISO to the camera. It's you're expecting the camera to get a good exposure for you. And if it physically can't do that with this minimum shutter speed that you set, then it will lower it. And that will manifest itself by showing you the shutter speed in red on your LCD or your EVF. But it will do that, and it always has done that, and it makes sense for it to do that. If you don't want it to take control of the shutter speed, then you need to use shutter priority, or you need to shoot it manually, and then you'll fix it. But yeah, it's always been the same, always has worked like that. Makes sense for it to work like that. No difference in XT4 and XH2S, unless Owen is on about something else other than auto ISO. I don't have an XH2S, so I don't know.
No, I don't think he is. I think what you've described is how it works, Kev. How stuff works. Which
works. I got that written on my arm.
Yeah, you have, and so has Gemma.
Stuff that works.
Is it on your? It's on your right arm, isn't it? I think.
On my left arm.
Or is it on your left? See, in a Mr. and Mrs. contest on stage, we'd have failed.
I have both my tattoos on my left arm. My right arm is completely free.
Well, you know what you need to do on that one, which would be handy for as you grow older, Kev. Just put a little bingo card on there. Then you'll always be sorted for whenever you need a bingo card. See? Stuff what works. And that's it for this week. The way to there's more questions that can be answered, of course, when we do our event at the House of Photography in London on the 2nd of March, Kev. Because that's a great opportunity to do a Q&A. I'm hoping Andreas will do one of his Q&As because he's really good at doing stuff like that.
He will.
Yes.
And we'll do lots of Q&A in the pub afterwards also.
That's right. You'll get slightly less dependable answers in the pub afterwards.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, in the shenanigans. If you want to go to that event, Kev, tell us how you can.
Go to my website, kevinmullinsphotography.co.uk. Go to the workshop section, which is in the menus, and you'll see it. It's there. It's very obvious.
Don't we have a link through on the FujiCast website as well?
Yeah, of course. There's a link there as well. But you don't buy the tickets there.
No. It just links you straight to Kev's site. Just in case you're thinking, how do I get to Kev's site? I know you know how to get to Kev's site. Right, keep those questions coming in. Send them by email, click@fujicast.co.uk. Or you can go to the Facebook page, look for the pinned post at the top and join in there. That's it, Kev. You've got a long day ahead of you today. I know.
Yeah.
You're off to the smoke.
I'm off to that there London.
Yeah, you can check.
Workshop.
Yeah, you can check if what was the question that we had? If you're smoke proof with your cameras, because you're off to the smoke. Have a good day, Kev. And see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.